There's a dangerous mistake many Muslims make. They think Islam teaches them to be endlessly kind to everyone, no matter who they are or how they behave. But in reality, that's not what Allah wants from you. Islam is about justice, balance, and wisdom. And if your kindness is empowering people who harm you, mock your faith, or lead you away from Allah, then that's not kindness anymore. That's self-destruction. Today you need to hear this reminder, because being too nice can cost you your deen, your dignity, and even your hereafter. In life, you will meet all kinds of people. Some will appreciate your kindness, while others will see it as an invitation to take advantage of you. Many Muslims grow up thinking that to be a good believer, you must be nice to everyone, no matter what. But that's not the teaching of Islam. Yes, Islam commands kindness, mercy, and gentleness. But it also commands justice, firmness, and protecting yourself from harm. The Prophet taught us to love for others what we love for ourselves. But he also warned us not to be soft in a way that allows others to walk over us. Allah Himself tells us in the Quran to stand firm against oppression, even if it's against our own family or ourselves. That means you are not obliged to be kind to people who mock your faith, lie to you, manipulate you, or push you towards sin. Your heart, your time, and your energy are amana, a trust from Allah, and you will be questioned about how you use them. Being endlessly kind to toxic people isn't a sign of piety. It's a sign you don't value the blessings Allah gave you. True kindness is knowing when to give and when to walk away. It's about protecting your dignity while still maintaining your character. Don't confuse being weak with being humble. Humility is strength under control. Weakness is letting go of your boundaries. Islam doesn't want you to be a people pleaser. It wants you to be a servant of Allah. And sometimes serving Allah means saying a no. In today's world, kindness is often misunderstood. We are told to be kind to everyone, all the time, no matter what they do. But Islam teaches us something deeper, something wiser. Yes, kindness is a virtue, but kindness without wisdom can destroy you. Being endlessly kind to people who misuse, manipulate, or harm you is not righteousness. It's self-destruction. And sometimes the most merciful thing you can do is to set boundaries, to walk away, to protect your heart, your faith, and your dignity. Islam is a religion of balance. It doesn't call you to extremes. It doesn't tell you to be a doormat for the world, nor to be cold and harsh. It calls you to a way of living where kindness is rooted in justice and mercy is guided by wisdom. Too many of us think that saying yes to everything, tolerating every insult, and allowing everyone to take advantage of us is somehow a sign of good character. But the truth is, this is not what Islam teaches. The Prophet, peace be upon him, was kind, but he was not weak. He forgave, but he also set clear limits. He helped the poor, but he didn't allow hypocrisy to flourish. He loved people for the sake of Allah, but he also turned away from those who persisted in evil. If you think kindness means letting everyone walk over you, then you are misunderstanding the Sunnah. Real kindness is about giving what is right, not what is easy. It's about standing for truth, even if it means people won't like you. And it's about protecting yourself from those who wish to harm you. Because your soul, your faith, and your dignity are trusts from Allah. Let me tell you something that many people don't realize. Islam never asked you to be kind to everyone without limits. It asked you to be just, and part of justice is knowing where your mercy should end. Think about it. If you show mercy to a criminal while they are in the act of committing a crime, are you really being merciful? Or are you enabling them to harm more people? That is why Allah, in His wisdom, tells us to stand firm for justice, even if it's against ourselves, our family, or those we love. We live in a time where people have confused kindness with people-pleasing. They think that if they say a no, they are being rude. If they set a limit, they are being un-Islamic. But this is not the truth. Even the Prophet, who was the most merciful of all mankind, knew when to be firm. When the hypocrites in Medina tried to cause chaos, he did not reward their treachery with endless smiles and open doors. He confronted their behavior, he warned against them, And when Allah revealed verses about their corruption, He made sure the community understood the danger. Was that a lack of kindness? No, it was the highest form of kindness, because it protected the believers from harm. We need to understand something. Your kindness is a gift. It's not cheap. It's not to be thrown around to anyone who wants to take it. In Islam, kindness is a form of charity, and charity has rules. It must be given where it will do good, not where it will be wasted or used to harm others. Imagine giving charity money to someone you know will use it to buy poison. That's not kindness. That's aiding in their destruction. In the same way, giving your time, your trust, and your emotional energy to people who constantly abuse it is not noble. It's dangerous. Now, some people will say, but what about patience? Aren't we supposed to be patient with people? Yes, patience is a virtue. But patience doesn't mean being a passive victim. Patience means enduring hardship while staying true to Allah's commands. Sometimes patience means putting up with minor annoyances. Other times, patience means walking away from toxic people so you can protect your deen. The Prophet taught us that the believer is not bitten from the same hole twice. In other words, if someone wrongs you and you keep putting yourself back in the same position for them to wrong you again, you're not being patient. You're being careless. Let's get real. Some people will take your kindness and see it as weakness. They will keep pushing, testing, and taking from you until you have nothing left. No energy, no peace, no self-respect. And when you finally break, they'll move on to the next person. Islam teaches us to guard ourselves against such people. Allah tells us in the Quran not to take certain people as allies or confidants because their intentions are corrupt. That doesn't mean you curse them, harm them, or treat them with cruelty. It means you keep a healthy distance. You keep your heart and your life protected. That's not unkind. That's wise. Look at how the Prophet dealt with people. To the sincere, he was gentle, patient, and generous. But to those who actively worked against Islam, he was strategic, firm, and cautious. He didn't let them into positions of trust. He didn't let them manipulate his mercy. And he certainly didn't give them the same closeness he gave to the true believers. Why? Because he knew that trust is sacred. Your trust, like your kindness, is not something to be thrown to just anyone. Many Muslims today think that if they cut off a toxic relationship, they're doing something wrong. But sometimes, cutting ties is the most merciful thing you can do for yourself and for the other person. If someone is using you, lying to you, and harming you repeatedly, continuing to give them access to your life only encourages their behavior. By walking away, you give them a chance to reflect, to feel the consequences of their actions, and maybe even to change. But if you never set that boundary, why would they ever stop? In our communities, there is also a dangerous idea that you must forgive instantly, without any conditions. But forgiveness in Islam is encouraged. It's not forced. And forgiveness doesn't mean you must trust again. You can forgive someone in your heart, wish them well, and still decide they are not safe to be close to. The Prophet forgave many people, but he did not allow them all into his inner circle. Forgiveness is about cleansing your heart, not putting yourself back in harm's way. So how do you know when kindness becomes weakness? It happens when you are giving at the expense of your own well-being, your faith, and your dignity. It happens when you are allowing wrong to continue because you are too afraid to speak up or walk away. It happens when you care more about people liking you than about Allah being pleased with you. And when that happens, you must remember, Allah will not ask you how many people liked you. He will ask you if you stood for truth, if you protected your trust, and if you lived by His commands. Real kindness is intentional. It's thoughtful. It's given where it can uplift, heal, and benefit. And sometimes real kindness is saying a no so that both you and the other person can grow. Sometimes real kindness is walking away so that you can keep your heart pure. And sometimes real kindness is protecting yourself so that you can continue to serve Allah without being drained by the wrong people. Not every smile you give heals. Sometimes it destroys. Not every hand you extend saves. Sometimes it pulls you into the fire. The truth is, kindness without wisdom is like giving poison in a golden cup. It looks beautiful, but it kills silently. We live in a world where the word kindness is painted as an unquestionable virtue, where people think being kind means saying yes to everyone, pleasing everyone, never offending anyone, and constantly sacrificing your own boundaries to keep others happy. And while kindness is indeed one of the most beautiful qualities a human can possess, Islam teaches us that kindness must always be guided by wisdom, by justice, and by truth. Because if your kindness ends up supporting falsehood, enabling wrongdoing, or encouraging sin, then it's no longer kindness in the sight of Allah. It becomes a form of betrayal. Betrayal to yourself, betrayal to the truth, and betrayal to the very person you think you're helping. It's like feeding an addict more of what destroys him, just because you don't want to hurt his feelings. Islam doesn't call that kindness. Islam calls that harm disguised as compassion. Imagine a friend comes to you and says, "I'm struggling. I'm lost." You feel sorry for them. You see their pain, and your heart wants to comfort them. But what if their struggle is not because of bad luck, not because of someone else's injustice, but because of their own repeated, deliberate wrong choices? Maybe they keep lying, cheating, or engaging in haram activities. Now you have a choice. You can either comfort them in a way that ignores the root cause of their suffering, or you can lovingly but firmly guide them towards the truth, even if it's uncomfortable. If you choose the first path, the path of avoiding confrontation, avoiding the truth, simply to keep the peace, you have not helped them. You've just wrapped their wounds in silk while leaving the infection inside. And in the long run, that infection spreads. That is kindness without wisdom. In Islam, true kindness is not just about making someone feel good in the moment. It's about guiding them to what is good for their soul. The Prophet taught us that other religion is sincere advice. That means your duty as a believer is not just to be nice, but to be sincere in your interactions, even if sincerity requires you to say something that may not be pleasant to hear. Think about it. If you see a child running towards a busy road, you don't smile and clap because you don't want to upset him. You grab him, you pull him back. You may even shout, not because you hate him, but because you love him enough to protect him. The same principle applies in our relationships, our friendships, our families, our communities. If our kindness is not protecting someone from harm, but instead allowing them to sink deeper into it, then our kindness is counterfeit. Sometimes the most dangerous people in our lives are not the obvious enemies, but the overly kind friends who never hold us accountable. They watch us walk into sin, but instead of reminding us of Allah, they say, "It's okay, everyone makes mistakes." They see us neglect our salah, but instead of encouraging us to pray, they say, "Don't stress, Allah is merciful." Yes, Allah is merciful, but His mercy does not cancel His justice, and His mercy does not make sin permissible. When we use His mercy as an excuse to keep sinning, we are twisting His words for our comfort. And when someone helps us do that, they are not being kind. They are becoming a partner in our self-destruction. Islam teaches balance. Yes, we should be gentle, we should be patient, we should show compassion. But compassion without boundaries is weakness, and patience without truth becomes apathy. That's why Allah commands us to cooperate in righteousness and piety, but do not cooperate in sin and transgression. It's not enough to avoid doing wrong ourselves. We must also avoid supporting others in their wrongdoing. And supporting doesn't just mean helping physically. It includes emotional support, moral support, and even silent approval. Silence in the face of sin is a form of approval, and approval feeds the sin. One of the most tragic realities is that people often mistake enabling for love. A parent who gives their rebellious child money without asking where it will be spent, thinking, at least I'm helping, might actually be funding the very habits that are destroying their child. A friend who covers for another friend's lies, thinking, I'm protecting them, is actually protecting the lie, not the person. In the short term, it feels like kindness. In the long term, it is cruelty. Real kindness sometimes hurts in the moment, but it heals in the end. We must remember that every act of kindness is a seed we plant, and every seed grows into something, either something beautiful or something poisonous. When we give without wisdom, when we forgive without boundaries, when we accept behavior that Allah has forbidden, we are planting seeds of corruption, even if we don't realize it. On the day of judgment, Allah will not just ask us about the good we did, but also about the harm we allowed and the harm we facilitated. That's why the Quran warns us against following our desires when they lead us away from justice, even if it means going against ourselves or those we love. It takes courage to practice wise kindness. It takes courage to say a no when your heart wants to say yes. It takes courage to risk losing someone's temporary approval for the sake of their eternal well-being. But remember, your role as a believer is not to be loved by everyone. It's to be loved by Allah. And sometimes pleasing Allah will mean displeasing people. Sometimes it will mean drawing lines, setting limits, and walking away from situations where your help is actually feeding the problem. Kindness is a beautiful gift, but without wisdom, it can become a weapon in the hands of the wrong person. That's why we must always ask ourselves, is my kindness bringing this person closer to Allah or further away? If it's the latter, then what you're giving is not kindness, it's poison coated in sugar. And just like sugar, it feels sweet in the moment, but it rots everything it touches over time. So be kind, but be wise. Show mercy, but uphold justice. Love people enough to tell them the truth, even when it's hard. Because on the day when we all stand before Allah, it won't matter how many people thought we were nice. It will only matter whether we were truthful, sincere, and guided by His light. And that is the kind of kindness that Islam commands, kindness that saves, not kindness that destroys. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table, and not every heart deserves access to your energy. Protecting your energy isn't selfish. In Islam, it's an act of worship. You have only one heart, one mind, and one soul, and every single day, you are pouring parts of yourself into the people and situations around you. But here's the reality. If you keep pouring into cups that only leak, you will end up empty, broken, and wondering why you have nothing left for Allah, for your family, or for yourself. The Prophet taught us balance, to give where giving is right and to withhold when giving would lead to harm. In Islam, your time, your peace, and your emotional energy are trusts from Allah, and you will be asked how you spent them. So why would you give them to people who only drain you, disrespect you, or pull you away from your faith? Protecting your energy is not arrogance. It is honoring the amana Allah gave you. In a world where everyone demands your attention, your work, your friends, your family, social media, strangers with their endless opinions, it's easy to forget that your inner peace is one of the most valuable gifts Allah has given you. And like every gift, you will be tested in how you protect it. Islam teaches us that we are not here to please every single person. We are here to please Allah. And sometimes pleasing Allah means walking away from people who disturb your peace, who make you question your worth, and who pull you into sin. Allah warns us in the Quran about those who distract us from His remembrance, and sometimes that distraction doesn't come in the form of an obvious enemy. It comes in the form of someone close. Someone who constantly drains your emotional and spiritual energy without giving anything beneficial back. We live in a time where people are quick to label boundaries as selfishness, but in Islam, boundaries are part of wisdom. 8. Look at how the Prophet dealt with people. He was compassionate, yes, but he also knew when to distance himself from those who would harm his mission or corrupt the believers. He taught us to guard our hearts, to choose our company wisely, and to avoid being influenced by those whose actions lead us away from Allah. Protecting your energy is not shutting people out completely. It is learning to prioritize who you let close, because not everyone's influence is worth the cost. Think about your spiritual energy like a candle. Every time you give time, advice, or emotional support to someone, you are giving them a little of your flame. When that person uses your light to find their way closer to Allah, your flame grows brighter. But when that person uses your light to wander further into darkness, not only are they wasting what you gave, they are dimming your own ability to see clearly. Islam tells us to spend ourselves for good causes, but not to the point of self-destruction. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot keep lighting other people's candles if your own has burned out. The truth is, some people take advantage of kindness. They know you'll always answer the phone at 2 a.m. when they've made another bad choice. They know you'll drop everything to help them, even when they've never once been there for you. And slowly, without realizing it, your energy, your focus, your salah, your Quran, your own mental health begins to fade. This is not righteousness. This is neglecting your own soul. The Prophet said that your body has a right over you, your eyes have a right over you, and your family has a right over you. If you spend all your energy on people who drain you, you are robbing others and yourself of what Allah entrusted to you. Protecting your energy also means protecting your iman. There are people whose constant negativity, gossip, or sinfulness will infect your heart if you keep letting them in. That's why the Quran warns us to avoid the gatherings of those who mock Allah's signs, because eventually their attitude will start to rub off on us. Energy is contagious. Surround yourself with people who remind you of Allah, who recharge you instead of draining you, who inspire you to become a better version of yourself. Remember, even the Prophet did not try to win over every single heart. His mission was to convey the message, and those who refused to benefit, he left them to Allah. You are not obligated to keep toxic connections alive. In fact, letting go can sometimes be the most merciful thing you do for yourself and for them. Protecting your energy is protecting your ability to worship, to focus, to love sincerely, and to give way your giving will actually matter. So from today, make this intention. I will guard my energy like a treasure because it belongs to Allah. I will give it to those who help me walk towards Jannah, and I will withhold it from those who only pull me into the fire. That is not selfishness. That is faith. And faith always begins with protecting the heart Allah gave you. Some people think Islam teaches you to keep giving, keep tolerating, and keep forgiving, even if it destroys you in the process. But the truth is, the Prophet never told us to stand there and let harm consume us. He taught us to protect ourselves, our dignity, and our peace. Kindness is a virtue, but so is self-respect. And in the Sunnah, these two are never in conflict. They work together. If your mercy to others means cruelty to yourself, you've misunderstood mercy. Think about it. If a lion walked into your home, you wouldn't say, "It's okay, I'll just keep feeding it so it doesn't feel bad." You'd protect your life. Yet when it comes to people, we sometimes allow emotional lions into our hearts. We let them tear away at our mental health, our time, and our faith. We tell ourselves, this is patience, this is sabr, this is kindness. But in reality, the Prophet's own life teaches a different lesson. He forgave, yes. He was gentle, yes. But he also set boundaries. He also walked away when harm was persistent. He also taught that your soul, your body, and your dignity are an amana, a trust from Allah, and you will be asked about how you took care of them. So protecting yourself is not selfishness, it's worship. We live in a world where people will drain you if you let them. They will take your kindness and turn it into a tool for their own comfort while you are left empty. Islam doesn't expect you to keep handing over your peace to someone who tramples on it. The Prophet taught that a believer is not stung from the same hole twice. What does that mean? It means that yes, you may be wronged once. Yes, you may forgive once. But if the same person keeps coming back with the same harm, the Sunnah tells you to learn your lesson, to guard yourself, and to not stand in the same spot waiting to be hurt again. That's not patience. That's neglecting your responsibility to yourself. Protecting yourself doesn't mean you hate others. It means you understand that Allah has given you a body that must be preserved, a heart that must be kept clean, and a mind that must be cared for. When the Prophet dealt with the hypocrites of Medina, he didn't open his heart to their manipulation. He treated them justly. but he didn't invite their poison into his inner circle. That's a lesson for us. Be fair, be kind, but don't be naive. Islam is not asking you to be a doormat for the world. It's asking you to be wise, to use your intellect, and to know that Allah doesn't want you harmed when you can prevent it. We often confuse endurance with righteousness. We think the more we let people hurt us without speaking up, the more pious we are. No. But the Prophet's example shows balance. He knew when to bear patiently and when to take action. When people tried to harm him physically, he didn't stand still and say, "It's okay, hurt me more." He migrated. He built alliances. He protected the believers. That's the sunnah, strategic kindness, not blind tolerance. Even in family relationships, Islam commands kindness, but it does not command that you let abuse or oppression continue. If someone is toxic, disrespectful, or harmful, you are obligated to protect yourself. This might mean limiting contact, setting boundaries, or seeking justice. It's not un-Islamic to say no to harm. It's un-Islamic to allow harm to persist when you have the ability to stop it. Remember, even the Quran tells us not to throw ourselves into destruction. That includes emotional and spiritual destruction. And here's the truth. Protecting yourself is not just about you. When you are whole, when you are safe, when your mind and heart are at peace, you can serve Allah better. You can worship with more focus. You can help others more effectively. But if you're constantly wounded by people you refuse to distance yourself from, you'll have nothing left to give. Self-protection is self-preservation, and self-preservation is part of faith. So the next time someone tries to guilt you into staying in a harmful situation by saying, "Islam says to be patient," remember, Islam also says to guard yourself. The sunnah is about balance. Kindness is beautiful, but it must be accompanied by wisdom. Forgiveness is noble, but it doesn't mean allowing repeated harm. The Prophet was the kindest man, but he never confused mercy with weakness. Protecting yourself doesn't make you less kind. It makes you a better, wiser believer. Some people will tell you if you were truly a good Muslim, you'd let things slide, you'd always forgive, you'd accept everything. But that's not what Islam teaches. Islam teaches mercy, yes. It teaches forgiveness, yes. But it also teaches boundaries. Saying a no to injustice is not arrogance, it's obedience to Allah. Closing the door to toxic people is not pride, it's self-respect rooted in faith. You are not here to please everyone. You are here to please Allah. And sometimes pleasing Allah means saying a stop when others cross the line. One of the biggest misconceptions in our communities is that being a good Muslim means being endlessly available, endlessly patient, endlessly tolerant, even when people are harming you. We've been conditioned to think that standing up for ourselves is a sign of pride, when in reality, it's a sign of faith. Boundaries are not un-Islamic. They are deeply Islamic. Look at the life of the Prophet. He was the most merciful, but he was also the most firm when the truth was at stake. He forgave those who sought forgiveness, but he confronted those who persisted in injustice. Islam doesn't ask you to let people walk all over you. It asks you to stand for justice, even if it's against your own self. Allah commands in the Quran, "O you who believe, stand firmly for justice as witnesses to Allah, even if it is against yourself, your parents or relatives." This is the heart of boundaries, knowing when to say enough, not out of ego, but out of obedience. Boundaries are not walls of arrogance. They are fences of protection. Without them, relationships become toxic, kindness turns into exploitation, and love turns into control. Islam is a religion that values justice, balance, and dignity, and you cannot uphold these without healthy boundaries. When Allah tells us to enjoin good and forbid evil, He's not telling us to ignore harm for the sake of a peace. True peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of justice. If your silence allows someone to continue oppressing you or others, you are indirectly enabling that oppression. We see this in the sunnah of the Prophet. He would not tolerate injustice, even in the smallest form. He didn't allow people to take advantage of him under the guise of kindness. When people tried to impose on his time or overstep in ways that harmed the community, he set limits. He addressed wrongdoings with clarity, without fear of what will they think of me. This is because his standard was never about pleasing people. It was about pleasing Allah. And pleasing Allah sometimes requires disappointing people who expect you to bend to their will. Think about the companions, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali. These were people of immense humility, yet they were unshakable when it came to truth. Umar ibn al-Khattab, known for his justice, was also known for his firmness. If someone was in the wrong, he wouldn't sugarcoat it. This was not arrogance, it was righteousness. In Islam, setting boundaries is not an act of selfishness, it's an act of responsibility. Because when you say a no to injustice, you're not just protecting yourself, you're protecting the integrity of your deen. Many Muslims fall into the trap of people pleasing, thinking it's kindness. But if your kindness allows someone to keep sinning, hurting, or manipulating, it's no longer kindness, it's negligence. The Prophet taught us that the believer is not stung from the same hole twice. This means if you've been wronged once, you learn, you adjust, and you protect yourself from being wronged again. You do not keep putting yourself in the same position under the false banner of patience. Patience doesn't mean tolerating abuse. It means enduring hardship for Allah's sake while taking steps to protect yourself and uphold justice. Boundaries also protect your emotional and spiritual well-being. Without them, you carry unnecessary burdens. You start to resent people you were once willing to help. You lose your focus in worship because your mind is constantly drained by the demands of others. Islam values your mental health because a heart weighed down by resentment and exhaustion cannot connect deeply with Allah. That's why the Prophet advised us not to take on more than we can bear, even in acts of worship. If moderation applies to prayer and fasting, then it surely applies to how much of yourself you give to others. And here's something most people don't realize: saying no can be an act of dawah. When you refuse to participate in gossip, when you decline to be part of an unethical business deal, when you don't let someone exploit your generosity, you're sending a message. Answer to Allah, not to people's pressure. That kind of strength inspires respect and often reflection. People begin to see that Islam is not about blind compliance to human demands. It's about intelligent, principled living. Of course, boundaries should be set with wisdom. Islam teaches gentleness in speech and action. You don't have to be rude to be firm. The Prophet was clear and direct without being insulting. You can say, I can't help you in this, or that behavior is not acceptable, or I need some space, without crossing into harshness. Firmness does not equal cruelty. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for someone is to draw a line they cannot cross, because it forces them to reflect on their actions. Think about the alternative. What happens when we have no boundaries? Toxic people thrive. Manipulators continue to manipulate. Abusers feel safe to abuse. And you, who were trying to be kind, end up drained, broken, and far from your spiritual best. That's not Islam. That's not Islam. Is excellence in worship and conduct. And excellence requires that you are not spiritually suffocated by someone else's wrongdoing. So remember this: boundaries are not a betrayal of kindness. They are the guardrails that protect kindness from being destroyed. Every time you say no to something wrong, you are saying yes to Allah. Every time you walk away from a harmful situation, you are walking toward your own dignity. And every time you hold firm to your principles, you are living proof that Islam is not about pleasing people, it's about pleasing the one who created them. Because on the day of judgment, you won't be asked, did you keep everyone happy? You will be asked, did you stand for truth? Did you uphold justice? Did you protect the trust Allah gave you, your soul, your dignity, your faith? And that is why setting boundaries is not arrogance, it's worship. Some people think that being a good Muslim means letting everyone into your life, giving your time to anyone who asks, trusting every smile, and opening your heart to every story. But here's the truth. In Islam, not everyone is meant to have the same access to you. Your time is valuable, your trust is sacred, and your heart is a gift. If you hand these treasures to anyone and everyone without wisdom, you risk not only being hurt, but also allowing people to take advantage of you in ways that can pull you away from Allah. In a world where people often confuse kindness with weakness, the idea of limiting access to yourself can feel strange. We're taught to be generous, to be helpful, to be welcoming. And yes, all of that is part of Islam. But Islam also teaches us hikmah, wisdom. And wisdom means knowing who to let into your life, how much to give, and when to step back. Think about the Prophet's life. He was the most merciful, the most generous, the most caring. Yet he did not give everyone the same level of closeness. His inner circle was small, trusted, and carefully chosen. The Quran itself reminds us in Surah An-Nur that believers should seek permission before entering each other's private spaces. That's not just about physical homes. It's about your emotional home, too. Your peace of mind, your spiritual focus, your mental well-being, all of these deserve protection. If you keep the doors wide open for everyone, the wrong people will walk in and the right people may walk out. Not everyone deserves the same access to you. And this is not arrogance. It is Islam. The people you allow close to your heart influence your faith, your character, and your future. If you spend your time with those who constantly complain, gossip, and pull you towards sin, you will start to see your own energy, iman, and focus weaken. If you give your trust to those who have not earned it, you invite betrayal into your life. If you pour your love into people who only take and never give, you will eventually feel empty. And emptiness makes it harder to give to those who truly deserve it. Islam teaches balance. The Prophet said, "A person is upon the religion of his close friend, so let one of you look at whom he befriends." This means your inner circle isn't just a social choice. It's a spiritual one. Being kind doesn't mean giving the same time, trust, and heart to everyone. It means giving appropriately with justice and wisdom. Some people should only have access to your smile and a polite greeting. Others may deserve your ear for a short conversation. And a select few, those who bring you closer to Allah, who protect your honor, who genuinely wish you well, they deserve the deepest parts of your trust and love. So start protecting your access. Not everyone is meant to be close to you, and the more you understand this, the more peace and focus you will have to walk the path Allah wants for you. Some people will test your mercy again and again, mistaking it for weakness. They will wrong you, apologize just enough to be let back in, and then repeat the same harm. But in Islam, mercy is not meant to be an endless cycle of enabling injustice. Mercy has its place, and it also has its limits. Allah is the most merciful, but even His mercy is accompanied by justice. When you forgive without accountability, you might think you're being pious, but you may actually be opening the door for oppression to grow. The Quran doesn't teach us to be naive, it teaches us to be wise. Forgive when it brings hearts closer to Allah, but protect yourself when forgiveness is being abused. We live in a world where people glorify unconditional mercy, the kind where you forgive endlessly, regardless of the harm done to you. They say, just let it go. It be the bigger person. Forgive and forgive. And while forgiveness is indeed a beautiful quality in Islam, it was never meant to make you a doormat for the unjust. The Prophet taught us to forgive, but he also taught us to stand for justice. He forgave those who truly repented, but he also confronted those who persisted in evil. He didn't allow people to repeatedly exploit his kindness. Why? Because in Islam, mercy is balanced with accountability. Mercy without justice is chaos, and justice without mercy is cruelty. The believer's path is in the middle, a heart that forgives sincerely, but a mind that knows when to draw the line. If someone wrongs you once and repents, you forgive. If they wrong you twice and show regret, you may forgive again. But if they wrong you over and over, making a habit of hurting you, Islam gives you the right, and sometimes even the duty, to step back, to cut ties, to protect your dignity. Mercy does not mean letting the oppressor continue to oppress. When Allah speaks of mercy in the Quran, he describes it alongside his justice. He forgives whom he wills, but he also warns of severe punishment for those who persist in wrongdoing. This is a divine balance, and it's the balance we must carry in our own lives. Too many of us confuse being merciful with being passive. We think if we just keep forgiving, Allah will be pleased. But if our forgiveness enables oppression, then we are indirectly approving of it. Imagine someone keeps lying to you. You confront them, they apologize, you forgive. But then they lie again and again. At what point does forgiveness stop being a noble act and start becoming negligence? The Prophet was merciful, but he did not give his trust freely to those who repeatedly betrayed it. In fact, he taught us that the believer is not stung from the same hole twice. This is not a call to bitterness, it is a call to wisdom. Mercy in Islam is not blind. It sees clearly who is trying to change and who is taking advantage. The Quran tells us, repel evil with that which is better. But it also tells us, you do not incline toward those who do wrong, lest you be touched by the fire. That means mercy is encouraged, but enabling is forbidden. There will be times when walking away is the most merciful thing you can do, for yourself and for the other person, because it forces them to face the consequences of their actions. Mercy has its place, but so does distance. Islam's vision of mercy is powerful, but it's never meant to make you a victim. True mercy uplifts, heals, and protects. It never tolerates abuse. True kindness isn't about giving until you're empty. It's about giving in a way that strengthens both you and the person you're helping. If your kindness leaves you drained, broken, and taken advantage of, it's no longer kindness. It's self-destruction disguised as virtue. And Islam never asked you to destroy yourself in the name of kindness. We live in a world where people often mistake being nice for being a good, where we are told that a kind heart should endure everything, forgive endlessly, and accept mistreatment without complaint. But this isn't strength, it's weakness being dressed up as compassion. In Islam, kindness is not about enabling the same wrong over and over. It's not about letting someone crush you simply because you want to keep the peace. True kindness has a backbone. It stands for truth, it protects dignity, and it ensures that your help makes the other person better, not more dependent on your sacrifice. The Prophet taught us to be merciful, but he also taught us to be wise, to protect ourselves, and to recognize when our mercy is being abused. Because kindness without boundaries isn't kindness, it's surrender. And surrendering your well-being, your faith, and your peace of mind is never what Allah asks of you. True kindness strengthens, never weakens. It's the kind of kindness that helps a person rise on their own feet instead of leaning on you forever. Think about how Allah's mercy works. Yes, He forgives. Yes, He is patient. Yes, He is the most kind. But His kindness is not without justice. If someone continues to harm, continues to oppress, continues to sin without remorse, Allah's justice takes its course. That is the balance Islam teaches us. Mercy and accountability hand in hand. Yet, many of us forget this balance when dealing with people. We give, and we give, and we give, thinking this is piety, but what we're really doing is training people to take advantage of us. We allow them to repeat their wrongs without correction. We let them hurt us, because we think saying a no is unkind. But in reality, saying a no when needed is one of the greatest acts of kindness, because it stops harm from spreading. Imagine giving money to someone who wastes it on sin. You think you're helping, but you're actually funding their destruction. Imagine forgiving someone endlessly who never changes. They take your forgiveness as permission to continue harming you. This is not kindness, it's enabling. True kindness is when you guide someone to what's right, even if that means setting strict boundaries. It's when your mercy inspires growth, not dependency. And here's the truth. When you give without protecting yourself, you're not just hurting yourself, you're hurting them too. Because they never learn responsibility, they never face the consequences that might wake them up. Islam's kindness is dignified. It uplifts without humiliating the giver. It helps without harming the helper. The Prophet was generous, but he never let people abuse his generosity. He forgave, but He never let injustice go unchecked. And if we truly follow His way, our kindness should make us stronger, not weaker. So if you find that your kindness is costing you your peace, your faith, or your dignity, that's a sign it's no longer kindness. It's time to set boundaries. Because the most beautiful kindness is the one that leaves both hearts stronger than before. At the end of the day, Islam teaches us balance. To be merciful, but not naive. To be kind, but not at the cost of our own soul. To forgive, but not to allow repeated harm. True faith is not about letting people walk over you. It's about standing firm in justice while keeping your heart clean. Every limit you set for the sake of Allah, every no you say to protect your peace, every step you take to guard your heart is an act of worship if your intention is pure. So be kind but be wise. Forgive but protect yourself. Give but not until you are empty. Because in the eyes of Allah, your dignity, your heart, and your well-being are worth protecting.